Trevenant going to start investing Protect Shields, blocking up this incoming energy from the super spammy Frog. Right on cue, the next Night Slash already queued up, and Trevenant now finds itself all shields down. The opponent looks to make a Seed Bomb catch onto Cresselia, catch attempt unsuccessful. Trevenant over farms, unleashes the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands for massive damage. Unfortunately, unable to farm down, so we're going to farm up, trap the opponent into the charge attack priority. They do not win. Seed Bomb removes Cresselia from the field of play. Back out comes Greninja, but Greninja going to be straight in and straight out. Welcome back to the channel. As of yesterday, we are able to remove frustration from our Shadow Pokemon, which means I'm finally able to use Trevenant in the Go Battle League. I'm sure you've seen Trevenant on other channels, but unlike them, firstly, I'm not showcasing any absolute bullshit practice battles, and secondly, I'm not trying to pad it out with very bulky, boring top meta threats. Here on the home of Shadow Pokemon, every newly released Shadow Pokemon is going to be showcased exactly the way it should be. Firstly, in actual Go Battle League footage, and secondly, in a full Shadow team. I actually have played very little Pokemon Go and not battled at all for about 4 or 5 days. However, my friend Connor messaged me. He said his lad wants to see me upload, so shout out Tristan, you asked, and who am I to disappoint a kid? So we're going to be taking a look at Trevenant in the Open Ultra League. Team building today, I did actually look to run Trevenant Double Dark Poison. However, the issue is Zygarde would be my dad, so we're going to replace Skunk Tank with Malamar. Let's keep the intro short and sweet, and without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we lead Shadow Trevenant into Togekiss. This thing is a nightmare for this team. Trevenant not going to be particularly good into it, nor is Malamar. We're going to farm up, attempt the side shot catch onto Drapion, catch attempt unsuccessful, but it's nice for me. The opponent opts to dump some energy, firing off the Aura Spear before sending out Golurk. Here I'm intentionally going for the Aqua Tail because I can reach 2. The first one forces a Protect Shield, the second one hopefully puts them in a range where I can Shadow Claw farm down before they reach back-to-back Shadow Punches. Is that possible? I guess we're about to find out together. As did I check any simulations for Trevenant? Absolutely not. I powered up and headed straight to battle. I need 3 further Shadow Claws to remove Golurk from the field of play, and have no doubt, look at the Shadow Claw damage. The opponent very quickly gets farmed down. Back out comes Togekiss. We rip off the Shadow Ball, massive damage. The opponent pivots out into Gator, and this is GG's and thanks for playing. I could have fired off the Seed Bomb to force the Protect Shield, but there's really no need. Malamar able to tank one move, whereas the opponent simply cannot. We're going to farm up, fire off the Foul Play. Foul Play forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. Gator looks at the Shadow Claw, farm down. Malamar says, bro, have a word with yourself. It's not happening. Superpower removes them from the field of play. We Sideway farm down and take that game. Heading into the next battle, we see Corvinight in the lead position. The sand attacks are resisted, but both the charge moves, as long as they're on Air Cutter and Payback, would be super effective. Potentially they got Iron Head. Who knows, who cares, not particularly me. I attempt a Payback catch onto Drapion, catch attempt unsuccessful, and out comes Belly Bolt. Honestly, this opponent must be so fun at parties running the core of Corvinight plus Belly Bolt. Nice to see Belly Bolt here as Drapion is very spammy, able to land back-to-back crunches. The opponent, being like most Belly Bolt users, completely brain dead, spams the next parabolic charge as soon as they get it and end up playing the charge attack priority. They do not win. And just like that, switch advantage is mine. To be honest, I'm not really sure how much switch advantage is going to help me. The opponent fires off the Air Cutter. They're able to send an attack farm down. I'm going to opt to realign and send out Malamar to use it as the damage sponge. Payback here would only hit for neutral, but the opponent actually super horny for that boost, spamming out Air Cutter after Air Cutter. Thankfully, no boost does come through. We fire off the Foul Play. Is this one finally the payback? Honestly, trainer, are you single move? Do you have payback? Is this one finally the payback? The opponent finally recognised I'm not intending to shield shit. Fire off the Payback, remove me from the field of play. Seed Bomb would be double resisted. I'm going to force in the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball forces the Protect Shield. And at this point, the Shadow Claw damage will put in a range where I can Seed Bomb and knock him out. The opponent fire off the Air Cutter. Out comes Florges. Florges not going to appreciate the Shadow Ball. They probably shield the first move, but I'm still YOLOing the Shadow Ball regardless. The opponent farm up to what could be a Moonblast. Trainer, throw the correct move, you win. Throw the wrong move, which is Chilling Water, and unfortunately for you, this one is going to end in defeat. Trevenant going to unleash the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands for massive damage. I've got a shield, but trust me, I'm not shielding a Chilling Water. Chilling Water simply doesn't get the job done. The opponent pivots back out into Corvinight. Trevenant fully Shadow Claw farms down, leaving with the Shadow Ball, and that is going to be all she wrote. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow and Shadow Crime with the Shadow Tree into Primeape, which is definitely my favourite Pokemon for the Ultra League. This thing is so spammy, hits incredibly hard. Rage Fist doesn't even get the same type of attack bonus, but ouch, where did my HP go? Trevenant rips off the first Seed Bomb, forcing the first protection of the game. The opponent continuing to overfarm, allowing me to reach Seed Bomb number 2, and the opponent very quickly go all in on Primeape. I'm more than happy to take my 2-0 shield advantage. Rage Fist removes Trevenant from the field of play. I send out Malamar. This could be a double boosted close combat that I will be respecting. The opponent falls in the close combat, then pivot out into Big Man Blastoise. Malamar gonna fire off the foul play. Superpower in neutral situations will do more, but does come with a consequence of debuffing both my attack and defense. The opponent throws on 6. This could be a Skull Bash. Skull Bash does hit hard in the Hydro Cannon, but still simply will not cut it. I'm going to farm up, throw the Superpower on the charge attack priority, anticipating Superpower being lethal. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite get the job done, but does leave Blastoise incredibly low. This sets up an opportunity for Drapion to get a 1 Poison Sting running start. The opponent sends out Gator. We need to be mindful the opponent's going to look to make a catch. There is said catch attempt unsuccessful. Drapion farms down, leaving with the double crunch. Gator can survive 1, but can't survive 2. So essentially what I'm saying is this is game over. Drapion rips off the next crunch, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see that pesky Togekiss lead again. Much like the last battle, I'm going to attempt a side shot catch. Once again, catch attempt unsuccessful, and out comes Nidoqueen. Drapion going to unleash the Aqua Tail. One Aqua Tail won't be lethal, but the second should force the Protect Shield. As you know what these Nidoqueen users are like, they're going to spam that shield up and look to force alignment in the mid-game matchup. I've actually got a Seed Bomb banked. I'm thinking Shadow and Shadow Crime. Surely Seed Bomb knocks out from it. It hits for neutral. Trevenant, do not let me down, buddy. I fire off the Seed Bomb. Oh, that doesn't get the job done. I now find myself in a dire situation. The opponent fire off the Earth Power. That was supposed to be resisted, but didn't look all that resisted. Malamar with a 2-1 shield advantage finds itself in somewhat of a dire situation. I shield of the Aura Spear. The opponent pivots out into Giratina. I think this game was winnable, to be honest. I should have fired off back-to-back foul plays to either look to force the final protection or cleanly knock out this Giratina. Instead, I opt to overfarm, but this Dragon Claw just did far too much damage, and I've left myself far too low. We farm up to the double charge moves. The opponent still has a shield to hide behind. They're never shielding this move. I'm not entirely sure why Superpower here either. Superpower would normally do more, but it's double resisted. I mean, it doesn't do much of anything. We pivot into Trevenant. I've got a shield, but there's not really much point in shielding. Side Shot removes me from the field of play. I get Peck farm down and take a heartbreaking defeat. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Galarian and Weezing in the lead position. They could throw Overheat, they could throw Brutal Swing. Both would be super effective. I attempt to catch on 4, which would be the Brutal Swing. However, later, you're going to see me make an adjustment and let the opponent farm to 7 before attempting the Drapion catch. This opponent actually full sends a Play Rough. Play Rough does massive damage. The opponent tank 1 Aqua Tail. Catch the next Aqua Tail onto Primeape, but that works for me as Aqua Tail, of course, is the move I'd want to throw anyway. Primeape continuing to farm up energy, allowing me to reach yet another Aqua Tail, which gets off some very, very valuable chip damage. The opponent recognises they're going to be unable to farm down, end up throwing last second. I can't even shield this either. Not that I would want to shield, but if I shield that, I'm probably on 1 HP and would get KO'd through the Protect Shield. I anticipate the opponent spamming the Rage Fist, so rather than sending out Trevenant, it would be super effective. I send out Malamar where it only hits for neutral. The opponent likely send Galarian and Weezing back into the arena. They've already shown Play Rough, so you better believe I will be respecting it. The opponent bait with the Sludge, then only throw a Sludge. Sludge only hits for neutral on 1, should be survivable. The opponent fire off the Sludge. I'm going to bank a charge move, make the pivot into Trevenant. We're able to Shadow Claw snipe him down. The opponent sends out Drift Blim. I very rarely bait, but you better believe every now and again we're going to go for a cheeky masturbating session. A Seed Bomb forces the first Protect Shield. We're able to reach the Shadow Ball, and we should be home and dry. Shadow Ball will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. We've got a foul play banked. However, would you believe it? I forgot what side the move's on. I throw a Superpower that is triple resisted. Fuck my life, man. What an absolute throw, but it's kind of funny and enjoy it. Honestly, what was that? GG's to that opponent. What a throw. Heading into the next battle, we see Virizion in the lead position. The opponent send out the Steel Penguin. I'm going to send out Malamar. I'm just going to play for shield advantage here, as switch advantage isn't all that important to me. We tank the Hydro Cannon. I'm going to full send the Superpower, make the opponent make a decision. How much do they want switch advantage? We full send the Superpower. Superpower is able to land. The opponent sends back out Virizion and concedes the match. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see another Corvinight in the lead position. So how I like to play this matchup is throw 7 Shadow Claws and attempt to payback catch onto Drapion. This opponent more than content to go straight Air Cutter, while Air Cutter is super effective, let's be honest. It doesn't hit particularly hard. Humans are like creatures of habit. If the opponent spammed the first Air Cutter as soon as they got it, they likely spam the second one as soon as they get it as well. So with that in mind, we catch the next one onto Drapion. Despite Corvinight running Sand Attack, that is hitting Drapion for super effective. This isn't a bad matchup for us, as they're forced to go straight Air Cutter, and Air Cutter is a very, very mid move, whereas Crunch does land for decent neutral damage and actually gets the defense drop. The opponent fire off yet another Air Cutter. Drapion shrugs off the damage and able to reach yet another Crunch, and as we debuff their defense, this Crunch will be lethal or force the first protection of the game. The opponent sack Corvinight, send out Primeape. Primeape looks for the Karate Chop farm down, but unable to get it before the departing Aqua Tail's reached, and the Aqua Tail will put him in a range where Seed Bomb will actually knock him out. The opponent makes a very nice catch, catching the Seed Bomb onto Skeledirge. We throw 1 Shadow Claw, transfer the Incinerate onto Malamar, and this endgame is going to get somewhat dicey. Both me and my opponent still have 2 Protect Shields in play. Foul Play forced the first Protect Shield. This is going to be a Torch Rong, but the issue I'm going to have is you can't shield quick moves, and the Incinerator is going to start chunking through my HP. We fire off the next Foul Play. Foul Play will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. Here I'm going to shield, and what I'm actually going to anticipate is the opponent spamming the switch back into Primeape and trying to snipe. Snipe attempt doesn't come through. We fire off 1 Shadow Claw and the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb knocks out before the Incinerate registers. Back out comes Primeape. Primeape looks to double up. Unable to get there, we reach 1 departing Seed Bomb and take that game. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see Regidrago in the lead position. I guess a neutral matchup on paper, but they do outpace. And let's be honest, Trevenant, very glassy. Dragon Energy would absolutely clap my cheeks with that in mind. Invest a Protect Shield. The opponent then pivots out into Corvinight. I full send the Shadow Ball. The thought process, force my Protect Shield back or land massive damage. After getting my Protect Shield back, we counter swap in Drapion. This should be a decent matchup as they're forced to go Air Cutter, but the opponent gets the boost on the very first attempt, meaning the Sand Attacks and Air Cutters are now going to do objectively more damage, but we're still not in Air Cutter range, as Air Cutter, even at +1, is not particularly threatening. Drapion shrugs off the damage, reaches yet another Crunch. Crunch won't be lethal, but will leave the opponent low. It actually ends up being a charge attack priority, which is kind of best case scenario. My opponent makes a very heads up play, go for the undercharge, get the perfect farm down just before the Aqua Tail's reached. I send out Malamar. I'm going to start loading up on energy. The opponent fire off yet another Air Cutter, get yet another boost. Oh man, RNG luck really not in my favour today. The opponent fire off the double boosted Air Cutter, then make the pivot into Regidrago. I'm going to fire off the Superpower. Superpower is able to land quick switch back into Trevenant. And after landing that Superpower, I can go straight Seed Bomb. I get off the Seed Bomb before the Dragon Energies reach. Seed Bomb removes them from the field of play, and out comes the Steel Penguin. So here I've got a decision to make. Seed Bomb hits for neutral. Shadow Ball would do more. I'm actually going to full send the Shadow Ball the first time, thinking maybe the opponent think I'm going to tank the first. Of course they fucking don't. Everyone's going to shit their pants, putting up that Protect Shield. We reach the departing Seed Bomb. Is Seed Bomb enough to knock out? No, it's not, and this one is going to end in heartbreaking defeat. It is what it is. We don't bait on the channel. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Virizion in the lead position. The opponent save switch into Florges, and I counter swap in Drapion. To be honest, switch advantage for me isn't important whatsoever, as Malamar are going to be advantageous to Virizion, so we're just going to use Drapion as the damage sponge. This opponent actually falls in the Moonblast, but Drapion shrugs off the damage, going to reach 1 departing Aqua Tail. After landing this Aqua Tail, I could shield and farm down, but I don't actually care about switch. Instead, I'm going to play for an energy lead. Chilling Water will be removing me from the field of play, but this should set up an opportunity for Trevenant to re-enter the arena and get a very nice Shadow Claw farm down. Trevenant gets the farm down, out comes Typhlosion. Again, this is the easiest bait of my GBL career, but we full send the Shadow Ball, guarantee the Protect Shield, or just cleanly knock out Typhlosion. We now send out Malamar. Malamar going to be investing in Protect Shield, blocking up the incoming Thunder Punch, and we bait Virizion back into the arena. I'm just going to keep farming up energy here, as I'm going to have to land a superpower to do any meaningful damage. The issue for me is they're nowhere near superpower range. I'm going to throw a foul play into superpower combination. Foul play doesn't do too much, but what it does do is put them very, very close to superpower range. We fire off the superpower. Superpower isn't quite lethal. We're able to make the catch of the Leaf Blade back onto Trevenant. Trevenant tanks the Leaf Blade. Typhlosion re-enters the arena. Trevenant able to reach the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb is resisted, but if the opponent doesn't shield this up, which they don't, the issue they're going to have is we're going to side away farm them down before they incinerate farm me down, and we take that game. In the next battle, we saw Swampert in the lead position. The opponent save switch into the Steel Penguin. Here I'm going to go for the Seed Bomb and then send out Drapion. Rather than send out Malamar here, we're just going to sack Drapion because Malamar neutral into Swampert, whereas Drapion not so good. After landing one Seed Bomb, one singular Crunch, we'll be moving them from the field of play. We fire off the Crunch, force a Protect Shield, and this is kind of a best case scenario. I'm looking at Empoleon's health thinking, I can probably send out Trevenant, shield once, get a huge Shadow Claw farm down, and hopefully be off to the races. However, if the Steel Penguin reaches one departing Drill Peck, we could be in a dire situation, but thankfully Trevenant able to get a massive Shadow Claw farm down. Swampert cannot re-enter the arena, so out comes Togekiss. Once again, we full send the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball unfortunately forces the opponent's final Protect Shield. We're so far ahead in energy, we can just shield up this move, and a Shadow Ball will be landing as long as the opponent doesn't make a catch. No catch attempt is made. Shadow Ball will be landing on its intended target. Shadow Ball, not quite lethal. Quick switch into Malamar, and we're able to get a very small energy lead. Back out comes Swampert. Swampert going to be outpaced as we pace at the same speed, and we have got an energy lead. We fire off the foul play. Foul play, able to land. Even a Hail Mary Earthquake simply won't cut it. The opponent full send the Earthquake, which doesn't get the job done. We reach the superpower, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we found ourselves a problem, and its name is Greninja. Greninja, kind of advantageous into all three of my Pokemon. We farm up, try for a Night Slash catch onto Drapion, and much to my disappointment, the Night Slash catch is unsuccessful. The opponent remain on my screen, so I'm going to take the initiative and fire off the Crunch. While Crunch is resisted, Greninja is hella glassy, and it does force the first Protect Shield of the game. It'd be lovely here for me if the opponent threw the world's silliest Night Slash bait. However they don't, and Hydro Cannon is the end of Drapion. However, Trevenant with residual energy re-enters the arena, one Shadow Claw and the Seed Bomb, and I look to remove this super spammy frog from the field of play. The opponent invests the Protect Shield, look to fire off the Night Slash to make the pivot, this time catching onto Malamar. We've done a lot of dancing around, but this frog is still going to be a problem. The opponent saves Greninja, make the pivot into Florges, and in theory we are fully walled, but do have a 2-to-no shield advantage. Unlike Togekiss, superpower here will do more. The opponent refused to throw energy, allow me to reach the superpower, and superpower leaves them deep into the red, and trainer, you need to throw. The opponent looks for the farm down, Malamar, hold strong, reach the foul play, removes Florges from the field of play, switch timers up, and here comes Trevenant. Trevenant with a 2-to-no shield advantage, very quickly going to be investing in Protect Shields, blocking up the incoming Night Slashes. The opponent already the next Night Slash, and the final Protect Shield will be deployed here. We need to be mindful the opponent might look to make a catch. There is said catch attempt, and out comes Cresselia. Trevenant going to overfarm, unleash the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball lands for massive damage, rocking the opponent deep into the red health range. Unfortunately, unable to farm down, so we farm up, trap the opponent into the charge attack priority. They do not win. Seed Bomb removes Cresselia from the field of play. Back out comes Greninja, but Greninja going to be straight in and straight out with Trevenant on cleanup duties. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see the world's most annoying Steel Snake in the lead position. I can't believe this is the first Steelix I saw. We're going to full send the Shadow Ball and look to do maximum damage. Shadow Ball able to land, and to be honest, that's very respectable damage. This thing has like 1 bazillion HP. I do invest Protect Shield, fearful of a potential Crunch. The opponent fire off the Psychic Fangs. With that in mind, we're going to catch the next Psychic Fangs onto Drapion. The Psychic Fangs itself doesn't do much of anything. However, what it does do is debuff my defense. However, that debuff isn't really going to make too much of a difference, as we're still going to be outside of Aura Spear range. This Drapion I'm using is actually a perfect rank 1. It's 0, 15, 15, maxed out all the way at level 49.5. We shrug off the Aura Spear, reach yet another Aquatail. Aquatail forces the first Protect Shield, and the opponent is able to peck farm down afterwards. I've already got a Seed Bomb banked on Trevenant. I'm going to send out Malamar. The opponent doesn't farm up to a Dazzling Gleam, so this can only be an Aura Spear at worst. With that in mind, I'm happy to shrug off the damage. Unfortunately, unable to Psy Wave farm down before the next one's reached. I'm going to fire off the foul play. Look to remove him from the field of play. Unfortunately, the opponent invests the Protect Shield, so quick switch into Trevenant, go for the 1 shield, full Shadow Claw farm down and leave with residual energy good to go. Steelix now nothing more than a sacrificial swap. The opponent sends out Cradily, attempt to make the catch attempt unsuccessful. We get the full farm down, leaving with the Shadow Ball. We're pretty much at 100 energy, to be honest. We fire off the Shadow Ball. Probably should have committed to the next Shadow Ball, but Seed Bomb going to do enough damage to put them deep into the red health range. We pivot into Malamar, look to force the energy. Rock Tomb, Grass Knot, whatever they throw should be lethal. Actually, we survive. We get up a bit more Sidewave damage. We're going to be able to Shadow Claw farm down and take that game. In the next battle, our target has been acquired. To be honest, I expected to see a lot of Gastrodon. Unfortunately, I didn't, especially not aligned against Trevenant anyway. The opponent save switch into the Steel Penguin. So as they led Gastrodon, we're going to chip with the Seed Bomb and counter swap in Drapion. The opponent fire off the Hydro Cannon. Drapion shrugs off the damage, and we're going to look to play for shield advantage. Drapion fires off the Crunch. Crunch actually goes unshielded. The opponent is going to be able to Mud Slap farm us down, but where does his energy go against Trevenant? Not particularly anywhere. I attempted to throw 7 in the move, but I recognise that next Mud Slap will knock me out, so I throw the Crunch on alignment and guarantee getting off some damage. Trevenant going to re-enter the arena. The opponent bank their energy and send out the Kentucky Fried Chicken, Bird of Death, in its glorious Shadow form. If you're going to run Shadow Talonflame, you certainly have Flame Charge, so I'm kind of worried that I might get Incinerate farm down on the 2 shield. Hopefully that isn't the case. We fire off the Foul Play. Foul Play forces the first Protect Shield. We're going to reach the next Foul Play. Foul Play will be forcing the opponent all shields down. Oh boy, we are very, very much running out of HP. We're only 3 sideways off the next move, or less than 4 anyway. So we invest in Protect Shield. I anticipate the opponent switching back out into Gastrodon. There is the switch. We save Malamar and send back out Trevenant. Trevenant tanks the Water Pulse, and this should be GG's. I'm just going to farm up, fire off the Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb will be moving Gastrodon from the field of play. We're outside of 1 Incinerate range. We're going to reach another Seed Bomb. 2 Shadow Claws and a Seed Bomb is going to be all she wrote with Trevenant. A Talonflame counter confirmed. I'm kidding, but we got the job done. In the next battle, we see Cradily in the lead position. A neutral matchup on paper, but they are far bulkier than me. We farm up, attempt a Rock Tomb catch onto Drapion. Catch attempt unsuccessful. The opponent does look to dump their energy, and we have got the Shadow Ball bank for later. The opponent then counter swaps in Corvinight. We're seeing this matchup play out time and time again. I used to love the Ultra League, but honestly, I think it's hella boring this season. Corviknight is such a slow, bloody, boring, bulky Pokemon that does such a little fast move or charge move damage. To make matters worse, when you're debuffed, even if you're a Shadow Drapion, your damage output is pretty pitiful. We fire off the Crunch. 2 Crunches do get them below half health, but this is still such an awkward health range for me to deal with. I'm going to send out Malamar. Look, start loading up an energy. I'm actually going to try and Sidewave him in a range where a Foul Play will be lethal and leave a residual energy to outpace that likely returning Cradily. We farm up. This is definitely Foul Play range, and we are going to be able to outpace Cradily. I remember this battle. The opponent here played this so well. They send back out Cradily, and watch what happens to me. Most people say content creators only show their wins. I get completely clowned on. The opponent makes a savage superpower catch onto Talonflame, and I am in absolute shambles. We pivot into Trevenant, full send the Shadow Ball. Again, I think you can see Bomb Bait ears. It's always going shielded, but I recognise I'm probably not going to reach 3 moves. We full send the first Shadow Ball. The opponent's got Flame Charge, and that essentially is the final nail in my coffin. We fire off yet another Shadow Ball, which of course will be bouncing off the Protect Shield. Sometimes in GBL, you are going to get outplayed, and what can you say other than GG's buddy, very, very well played. Whatever they throw will be moving me from the field of play, and we save 1 shield for next season. Heading into the next battle. We see Malamar in the lead position. I'm going to attempt a Foul Play catch, but likely the opponent isn't going to throw as soon as they get it. But likewise, I'm not really that bothered, to be honest. We're going to bank our energy and save switch into Drapion. The opponent fire off the superpower, and again we see Corviknight. I think this is why I'm just not enjoying battling. The lack of variety really does leave something to be desired. It's so boring playing the same matchups over and over again. Although as far as these battles went, I don't think I can really complain. We saw a hell of a lot of Corviknight, probably the most common Pokemon we saw. We didn't see too much Bellibolt and hardly any Zygarde either, which did make battles somewhat enjoyable. I quite enjoyed the team, to be honest. Crunch actually forced a protection. The opponent then gives up switch, sending back out Malamar, and they're able to Sidewave farm down. I can send back out Trevenant. We're going to invest a protection, blocking up the incoming Foul Play. Seed Bomb certainly won't get the job done, so we're full send of the Shadow Ball, guaranteeing the final Protect Shield or a big 1-hit KO. The opponent shows little respect. They get 1 shot. Get that Malamar off my screen. Corvinight does have an air cutter bank, so we attempt to catch the air cutter onto Malamar. The opponent actually does an instant throw, farm up to what could be a payback. They force in their payback, and they've got so much residual energy, they're able to reach an air cutter too, but air cutter won't be lethal. I'm just going to over farm, look to farm up very close to the double charge moves. At this point, the opponent can't really afford to shield. Foul play removes them from the field of play. Out comes Golurk, and the opponent can pick their poison. Do they want to shield the foul play? Yes, they do, which just means they're going to get Shadow Balled or Seed Bomb to their face. The opponent recognises they cannot win the match, and they run for the hills. GG's to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Cresselia in the lead position. Despite my Shadow Claws being super effective, it looks like the confusion, the keeping pace. The opponent pivots into Zygarde. We force in the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball able to land. We bank the Seed Bomb and make the pivot into Malamar. Malamar should be able to survive any one move, as Zygarde hits somewhat like a wet noodle. The opponent forces in the Outrage. I'm going to fire off the foul play and attempt to Psywave farm down afterwards. Can we get the Psywave farm down? Zygarde refuses to die, reaches the departing charge move, and do you know what? I'm actually going to flip alignment, as I'd much rather have Drapion aligned against Confusion Cresselia. Back out comes Cresselia. The opponent going to have to tank the foul play or invest a Protect Shield. They tank the foul play and look to dump their energy, and this is like best case scenario. We are down a Protect Shield, but we've got energy on Trevenant and almost 2 full health Pokemon when they've only got 1 full health Pokemon, and Cresselia below half health. They pivot into Moltres, and I guess I'm kind of obliged to stay in, and this is now a test of how big my balls are. If they full send a Brave Bird, we are in big trouble. We've still got 1 shield. The instant no shield, train a Brave Bird me, I dare you. They go for the fly. Fly simply does not cut it. We reach yet another Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail won't be lethal. We're kind of struggling to strip the final protection off the opponent. Drapion with a heavy pace advantage here, so I know I can shield this up and outpace to the Aqua Tail. My opponent also knows that and make a very nice catch him back onto Cresselia. And this endgame now suddenly got complicated. Aqua Tail doesn't do much of anything. We bank the Aqua Tail pivot into Trevenant. I recognise I'm not going to be able to farm down. I look to fire off the Seed Bomb and force the opponent to make a decision. They invest the Protect Shield, look to fire off the Moonblast. My low health Drapion is going to be tasked with cleaning up. Drapion, so low on HP, re-enters the arena, fires off the Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail will be moving Cresselia from the field of play. We're 1 off. Are we in 1 Sucker Punch range? We are not. Rank 1 Drapion, hold strong, reaches the departing Aqua Tail, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG to that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we have found ourselves a problem, and its name's Alolan Sandslash. How do we beat this thing? To be honest, I have no idea. We attempt to catch the Ice Punch catch, unsuccessful. We now get Drill Run to the face, so things aren't particularly going well. The opponent catches the Crunch onto Tentacruel, but that works for me as Crunch is the move I intended to throw anyway. Some good luck goes my way. We're able to get the Crunch debuff. I try and goad the opponent into throw him, but it looks like they're just going to continue to overfarm. We fire off yet another Crunch. Crunch is able to land. We reach the departing Aqua Tail, and as we debuff them, Aqua Tail is actually going to be lethal. We do take back Switch, but does Switch advantage really help me? Out comes Drifblim. Drifblim able to Astonish farm down. All for this team's rough for me. We have got energy banked on Trevenant. My Shadow Claws do hit for super effective. However, they do objectively less than the Astonishes. Here I throw 2, and that's intentional, because if I would have looked to throw 4, the opponent could have Icy Wind debuffed me. The opponent fires what could be a Shadow Ball. Thankfully, fire off the Icy Wind. And we've actually got a chance here. Back out comes Sandslash. We shield at the Ice Punch. I'm actually just going to double shield, farm up 2 double superpower, and at this point the opponent can't really afford to shield, because even debuffed superpower, double super effective, and will actually knock them out. I overfarm as much as I physically can, fire off the superpower, superpower removes Sandslash from the field of play. Back out comes the Balloon, foul play is debuffed, but does force a Protect Shield. We pivot back out into Trevenant. Here the opponent could have farmed down, and they should have won this battle. However, they get scared, dump their energy, give me a win con. Sometimes you just got to take your opponent's misplays and capitalise, and somehow we're able to emerge victorious, but the opponent definitely should have won. Heading into the next battle, we see Dragonite in the lead position. They're applying quite a lot of fast move pressure, as are we. However, we should fully wall the moveset right, because everyone runs Superpower and Thunder Punch. Wrong. We get Dragon Clawed, and we already find ourselves in a shambolic position. We're going to need both Drapion and Malamar to put in work, so I'm going to invest a Protect Shield. Unfortunately, shielding up a Thunder Punch, but to be honest, Shadow on Shadow Crime, even a Thunder Punch would have done a lot. I overfarm, fire off the Crunch. Crunch removes Dragonite from the field of play. Out comes Swampert. Swampert also going to be greeted with the Crunch. Crunch force a Protect Shield. I'm then going to farm up, attempt a Hydro Cannon catch onto Malamar, catch attempt unsuccessful. The opponent farm up a boatload of energy, then I've doubled up on charge moves. The opponent throw one Hydro Cannon, bank one Hydro Cannon, and send out a Bomber Snow. I full send the Superpower, able to land massive damage, but unfortunately we're unable to Psywave farm down, and this one is going to end in defeat. If I shield this up, Psywave farm down, Swampert could just win charge attack priority. I think my only win con at this point is them shielding the first crunch, me getting a debuff, which doesn't happen. The opponent farm up once again to the double. I recognise the game's over. We get BM sludge to the face. GG's to that opponent. I respect it. You got to love a bit of bad manners. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's shoutcast. I think Trevenant is actually a fantastic addition to the Ultra League. The Shadow variant, hella glassy, but you can see outputs absurd damage. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new, consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. A link to our battle submission form is down below, and as always, huge thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.